Hello everyone. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss Tanzi Olivera effect. This economic theory is associated with high inflation, which is responsible for the decrease in the real value of government tax revenue, leading to budget deficit. So before starting my presentation, I request all of you to please subscribe my channel and share it with your friends. Tanzi Olivera effect. This theory was given by Italian economists Vito Tanzi and Giulio Olivera in 1977. Tanzi Olivera effect discussed the economic situation with a period of high inflation in a country, which results in, on one side, a decline in the volume of tax collection by the government, and on other side, deterioration of real tax proceeds or the real tax revenue collected by the government of that country. Now the question is why this happened? This happened because of time lag or time lapse between the moment the taxable event occurred, that is, the tax announcement by the government in the budget, and when the time tax is collected. This effect was explained as Tanzi effect. Tanzi, in his research paper Inflation, Lags in Collection and the Real Value of Tax Revenue, which was published by IMF International Monetary Fund in 1977, mentioned time lag, which involves the time between tax announcement and tax collection. This time lag is responsible for decrease in the real government revenue in the period of rising inflation. Let's take an Indian example to understand it. Suppose we take a financial year 21-22 when the government comes with its budget. In the budget, government plan for various expenditure on the basis of various cost of public work program and various other public expenditure. Along with that, government also take into consideration inflation expectation. That inflationary expectation is taken on the basis of the previous inflation data. So during that time, the inflation was around 4.23 for consumer price index and consumer food price index was 1.96. So government made some inflationary expectations and decide the tax rate for direct tax and for indirect taxes. This tax on the basis of inflationary expectation would help government to finance its future expenditure. Now, during that year, economy witnessed huge rise in price. In the assessment year 22-23, actual inflation went up. The figure of actual inflation was 6.95 for consumer price index and consumer food price index increased to 7.68% from 1.96%. So we can see the huge increase in the price and economy witnessed high inflation. This inflation resulted in reduction in the real tax revenue. Since the actual inflation has become so high that the real value of tax revenue has fallen largely, and it is responsible for a large budget deficit. So now we must be clear on the point that as the taxes are collected on the past nominal income, the real value goes down with inflation due to time lag involved in tax collection. This effect is known as Tanzi Olivera effect. Therefore, when the inflation rate becomes very high, the budget deficit typically becomes very large. Since the tax are collected on past nominal income, the real value of tax revenue collected by the government goes down with inflation. Why? Because of time lag. Due to time lag, there is decrease in the real value of government revenue in the period of rising inflation. Therefore, Tanzi Olivera effect focuses on the problem of rising inflation and the lag in tax collection. As tax are collected on the past nominal income, the real value goes down with inflation. The important question comes here is explain how the decrease in the real value of government tax revenue collection in the period of rising inflation would further worsen the economic problem. So the answer is due to the rise in inflation, there is the fall in government revenue as the revenue collection in terms of real income is less on one hand, and on other hand, inflation has further increased the expenditure pressure on the government. That will definitely going to imbalance the government budget, leading to budget deficit. As on one side, large increase in public expenditure is required due to rise in price of goods and services, and on the other side there is fall in the real value of tax revenue collected by the government. Therefore, to finance the budget deficit, government resort to seigniorage, that is printing of new currency. Seigniorage is profitable, but in the short run. After a certain point of time, with the further increase in nominal money growth, there will be rise in price and fall in the value of seigniorage. That results in hyperinflation, which is characterized by continuous increase in nominal money growth and inflation in the economy, and that results in collapse of the economy. So the result is the collapse of the economy. Let us understand this collapse of the economy with the example of what happened in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe emerged as the only country that experienced severe hyperinflation in 21st century. What happened there? During 1980s, Zimbabwe ended its colonial rule and old British colony of Rhodesia became the new African nation of Zimbabwe. The hero of Zimbabwe independent movement, Robert Mugabe, became the president. A new currency, that is Zimbabwe dollar, was introduced replacing Rhodesian dollar. Robert Mugabe government introduced various reforms. He was basically a Marxist and his goal was to redistribute the wealth. He introduced various land reforms. The purpose was to redistribute land from the white minority who ruled Zimbabwe during colonial era. But what was the result? The result was the fall in the productivity, as many experienced white farmers left the country. The reforms led to fall in productivity, widespread corruption, decline in output led to fall in government revenue, and this revenue shortage forced the government for seigniorage. Because on one side there was huge public debt, on other side there was a responsibility for the payment of salary to government employees. So government resort to seigniorage, and monetary theory predicts that the monetary expansion lead to hyperinflation, and that happened. Inflation started increasing in Zimbabwe. Although Mugabe tried to control inflation, by imposing price control, but the shortage of many goods and services on one hand, and on other hand, the growth of corruption, underground economy lead to further rise in price. Government therefore continue with its seigniorage and printing of currency. As a result, Zimbabwe faced a severe hyperinflation. In 2008, annualized month-over-month inflation reached to 2,600%, and it emerged as the country which experienced severe hyperinflation in 21st century. IMF also calculated Zimbabwe annual inflation rate in September 2008 at 489 billion percentage. Finally, Zimbabwe hyperinflation ended in March 2009 when the government abandoned its own money, that is Zimbabwe dollar, and US dollar replaced the Zimbabwean official currency. After the US dollar became the nation's official currency, inflation was quickly stabilized. If you have any question on this presentation, please put your question in the comment section and like and subscribe my channel to get further notification. Thank you so much.